After 6 years in office, President Benigno Aquino is stepping down. He was voted into power as part of a political dynasty. His style of governance was seen as both inspiring and practical, following the tumultuous rule of former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. The honors the Philippine military displayed for Aquino's departure shows a very close relationship with their commander-in-chief. Military commanders say he was one of the best for decades.
In a sense, he knew the gravity of not having a force that would not be able to respond or fulfill its mandate under the Constitution. So in the context of all this, there was an urgency, and I think the President understood that.
But Aquino is also being criticized for failing to deliver on the promise of change that inspired so many of his voters during his ascent to the presidency. There were successes as well as outright setbacks under his administration. The first few years in office focused on fighting corruption, modernizing the capabilities of the Philippine military, securing a peace deal with the more Islamic Liberation Front in the southern Philippines, and filing a landmark case against China over the Spratleys group of islands in the South China Sea. It may be the presidency with the highest budget spent on social services, but the problem remains: how to ensure that economic growth trickled to those who need it most.
The promise of radical social change, the promise of a new social order, that was the promise at EDSA, and the new constitution whose heart is social justice. I think that was out of the radar screen of the president.
At least a third of the population still live below the poverty line, as it was in the 1990s. The paralyzing traffic jams in the capital, Manila, and Aquino's refusal to dismiss members of his administration despite their perceived incompetence all contributed to the anger of millions of Filipinos here. They say Aquino's government became insensitive to their needs over the last 3 years. Analysts here say the impact of Aquino's policies both here and abroad remains to be seen. Friends and colleagues say it is not easy to run a country long saddled by natural disasters and armed conflicts. His shortcomings will also be highlighted by the performance of the succeeding government. The vote for the incoming president is seen as a protest vote against Aquino's failures. Jamela, Alindogan, Jazeera, Manila.